Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be truly alone with the person you love most? Not just for a weekend getaway, but for an entire season, cut off from the rest of the world. Surrounded by nothing but a vast, silent wilderness of snow and ice. This isn't just a hypothetical question. For Maya and Arhan, it was a challenge they willingly took on. To spend a winter in a tiny, isolated cabin, nestled deep within a colossal mountain range. Their story is one of survival, yes, but it's also a profound exploration of love, patience, and the strength you find when you have nothing left to rely on but each other. Imagine waking up to the howl of distant wolves, the air so cold it bites your lungs. The world outside your window is a breathtaking, yet intimidating, canvas of white. This was Maya's reality every morning. At 27, she possessed a quiet determination that was the perfect anchor in their fragile existence. Each day began with a ritual, checking their dwindling supplies. The checklist was a stark reminder of their situation. Water reserves, food jars, firewood, medicine. The ticks on the list were growing, while the supplies themselves were shrinking. This wasn't just a rustic vacation. This was a test of Arhan, a 30-year-old with a passion for the mountains, would join her, brushing fresh snow from his hair. "It's colder than yesterday," he'd say, a daily observation that was always, undeniably, true. The cold wasn't just a temperature. It was a living entity, a constant pressure on their small world. His kiss on Maya's cheek was a small, warm rebellion against the encroaching frost. His obsession with the climate wasn't just a hobby, it was their lifeline. Check in the wind gauge, the barometer, and meticulously logging the readings in his notebook. These were the actions of a man who understood that in this environment, knowledge wasn't just power, it was survival. Maya would often tease him about his climate obsession, but they both knew the truth. They had agreed to this. They had chosen to face the winter head-in, and staying alive was the ultimate goal. She'd hand him a steaming cup of tea, a simple act of care that meant everything. She would look out at the endless white expanse. Core strength wasn't in weather instruments or physical force, but in a deep well of patience. "We'll survive," she'd tell him, her voice a soft reassurance against the vast silence. "We just need patience." And each other. In that moment, looking out at a world that could seem so empty, they knew they had everything they truly needed. Their days fell into a rhythm dictated by necessity and companionship. Life in the cabin was a constant montage of shared tasks. You'd see Maya, bundled up, carefully clearing heavy snow off the roof to prevent it from collapsing, a task requiring both strength and bravery. Then you'd see Arhan, his brow furrowed in concentration, meticulously repairing their heater, the very heart of their home, coaxing it back to life. Survival wasn't a series of grand, heroic acts, but a collection of these small, consistent efforts. It was teamwork in its purest form. They weren't just surviving alongside each other. They were surviving because of each other. But life wasn't all work and no play. The isolation forced them to find joy in the simple things. The afternoons would often melt away with a game of cards, their laughter echoing in the small, warm space of vibrant sound against the silent, frozen world outside. They cooked together, turning their limited rations into shared meals that nourished both body and soul. They'd spend long, quiet hours by the fire, lost in the pages of well-worn books, their minds traveling to worlds far beyond their snowbound reality. This quiet companionship was the bedrock of their relationship, strengthened by the solitude they shared. And then there were the letters. They would sit, pen in hand, writing letters that might never be sent, pouring their thoughts and feelings onto paper. Who were they writing to? Friends? Family? Or perhaps they were writing to their future selves, creating a record of this extraordinary time. It was a way to connect with the world they had left behind, and a way to process the profound experience they were living through. In a place where every word spoken was precious, the written word became a sacred space for reflection and hope. As night would fall, the cabin transformed. The world outside would disappear into an impenetrable darkness, and their small home would become a glowing ember of warmth and light. The fire would crackle, casting dancing shadows on the walls, and they would sit close, wrapped in its comforting heat. It was in these quiet moments that the most meaningful conversations happened. One evening, Maya turned to Arhan, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," she whispered. The simplicity of the question held a world of intimacy. Arhan, the brave mountain climber who had faced down cliffs and storms, paused. A slow smile spread across his face as he looked into the flames. "I used to be afraid of the dark," he confessed. Maya looked at him, surprised. "You?" she asked, a gentle tease in her voice. "The dark makes you face yourself," he explained, his voice low and earnest. "There was no one to distract you, nothing to hide behind. It was just you and your thoughts, your fears, your hopes." In the vast, starless night of the mountains, this truth felt more potent than ever. A quiet, emotional moment passed between them, a shared understanding that needed no words. Maya reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "Maybe this winter," she said softly, "will help us face everything together." It was no longer just about surviving the cold or managing their supplies. The journey had turned inward. The vast, empty wilderness was a mirror, forcing them to confront not only the elements, but themselves and their relationship in the most honest way possible. The isolation wasn't a void. It was a crucible, burning away everything that was unnecessary, leaving only what was true and strong. Their story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures aren't about conquering mountains, but about discovering the unmapped territories within our own hearts. It teaches us that resilience is often quiet, found in daily acts of care and patience, and that love is not just a feeling, but a choice you make every day to show up, to support, to listen, and to face the darkness together. They chose to spend a winter isolated from the world, but in doing so, they found a connection that was deeper and more profound than anything they had ever known. They found that in the heart of the harshest winter, the warmest place to be is by each other's side. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this journey with us. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the depths of the human spirit. We'll see you in the next one. The wind outside screams like a living thing, a monster clawing at the walls of our tiny cabin. The whole structure shudders, a tiny boat tossed on a violent sea. The lights above us flicker once, twice, then die, plunging us into absolute darkness. Not again. I hate this feeling, this total loss of control. In the sudden, oppressive black, I hear Arhan move. Hughes, always the practical one, the one who fixes things. "I'll check the generator." His voice is a steady anchor in the dark. "No. Don't go out there. The storm. It's too strong." Birds. My words are lost to the wind. I hear the rustle of his heavy coat, the click of the door latch. And then he's gone, swallowed by the raging blizzard. The minutes stretch into an eternity. I stumble through the dark, my hands searching for the matches for the candles I keep on the mantelpiece. My fingers are trembling so badly I can barely strike a flame. One by one, I light the candles, and a soft amber glow pushes back the darkness, but it can't push back the fear coiling in my stomach. The cabin feels so fragile against the storm's fury. When I think my heart will beat out of my chest, a thunderous knocking rattles the door. It's not the wind this time. It's frantic. I rush over, my hands fumbling with the bolt. I swing the door open, and Arhan stumbles in. He's a ghost made of snow and ice, soaked to the bone, shaking uncontrollably. I pull him inside, slamming the door against the storm, and wrap my arms around him. He's so cold. Thor. I can feel the shiver running through his entire body, and it runs through mine, too. Don't do that again. Please. My voice is barely a whisper, a desperate plea against the roaring wind. He presses his forehead to mine, his breath ragged. I'm here. I'm right here. Later, wrapped in every blanket we own, we huddled by the fireplace. The flames crackle and dance, a tiny, defiant sun in our small, dark world. Outside, the storm is relentless, a constant, howling reminder of our isolation. The power is still out, the generator is still frozen, but in here, with him, I feel a fragile sense of peace. Arhan breaks the silence, his voice soft. Remember when we first met? A small smile finds my lips. At the bookstore. Of course, I remember. You were trying to reach that dusty old poetry book on the top shelf. And you let me have it, he says, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Only because you looked so desperate, I tease, nudging him with my shoulder. He laughs, a warm, genuine sound that fills the small space and pushes the storm a little further away. He looks at me, his expression turning serious. Winter may be cold, he says, his voice low and sincere. But every moment with you feels warm. He takes my hand, his fingers lacing with mine. And in that moment, the storm outside doesn't matter. The cold doesn't matter. All that matters is the warmth of his hand in mine, the steady beat of our hearts, and the firelight dancing in his eyes. Brittany, island of warmth in a world of ice. And for now, that's enough. The next morning, the world is reborn in silence and white. The storm has passed, leaving behind a pristine, untouched blanket of snow that buries everything in sight. The sun, a pale disk in a crystal blue sky, makes the landscape glitter like a million diamonds. It's beautiful, but it's a treacherous beauty. Reno, we need to check our supplies. The first priority is water. Arhan heads down to the frozen lake, armed with an axe to test the thickness of the ice. I stay closer to the cabin, gathering fallen pine branches for kindling. The air is so still, the only sound is the crunch of snow under our boots. And then, a sound that shatters the silence. A loud, sickening crack. My head snaps up. My blood runs cold. Arhan is on the ice, his body slipping. The surface beneath him is a web of fractures, spreading out like a spider's web. He tries to crawl back, to distribute his weight, but it's too late. The ice gives way with a final, echoing groan, and he disappears into the black, freezing water. A scream tears from my throat. Arhan, without thinking, I'm running, throw myself onto the snow-covered bank, my arms reaching, my fingers clawing for him. Just as he sinks beneath the surface, my hand closes around his arm. The shock of the cold is instant, even through his thick coat. I pull with every ounce of strength I have, my muscles screaming in protest. He gasps, breaking the surface, his face a mask of shock and blue-white cold. Fuse, shivering so violently his teeth are chattering. Somehow, I drag him back to the cabin. I strip off his soaking, frozen clothes and wrap him in a mountain of dry blankets, piling them on top of him as he lies by the fire. I rub his arms, his legs, trying to force life and warmth back into his limbs. Tears stream down my face, hot against my cold cheeks. You scared me? My voice breaks. You almost left me. He's still shivering, but he manages to look at me, his eyes clear and focused despite the cold. I'm not going anywhere. He says it with such certainty, such conviction. We survive this together. I collapse onto him, hugging him tightly, burying my face in the warm wool of the blankets. He's right. This storm, this ice, this fear. It's all a test of our strength, of our will to survive. But more than that, it's a test of us. And we're not just surviving. We're surviving together. And that makes all the difference. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed our story, please consider liking and subscribing for more. We'll see you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that explores a simple yet profound question. What happens when two people are stripped of all the noise and distractions of the modern world? When all they have is each other and the raw, untamed beauty of nature. It's a story about Arhan and Maya, a couple who escaped to a remote cabin, hoping to find a moment of peace, but instead, they find something much deeper. Our story opens in a rustic, snow-covered cabin. Arhan awakens, weak and pale, the remnants of a fever clinging to him. Maya is by his side, a mixture of relief and exhaustion on her face. Your fever's high, but it's stable, she tells him softly. You almost fainted yesterday. A dry cough escapes Arhan. I'm sorry, he rasps, the guilt evident in his voice. Maya's response is a laugh, but it's fragile, laced with tears she's been holding back. Don't you dare apologize for almost dying, she says, pulling him into a tight embrace. In that hug, we feel the weight of their fear. The unspoken terror of nearly losing someone you love, and the overwhelming relief that they are still there, safe in your arms, too. It's a powerful, intimate moment that sets the stage for everything that follows. The next day, the world outside is a canvas of white and crisp. Winter air is a stark contrast to the lingering sickness inside the cabin. They venture out together to gather firewood, a simple chore that becomes a testament to their partnership. The snow crunches under their boots, their breaths turning to mist in the cold. Maya, determined and resilient, struggles with logs that are just a bit too heavy. Arhan, still recovering but ever watchful, steps in. Hey, don't overdo it, he says, his voice filled with concern. You'll get hurt? Maya's reply is a mix of playful annoyance and deep affection. I'm not fragile. Arhan smiles, a genuine warm smile that reaches his eyes. You're everything but fragile, he says. She rolls her eyes, but it's a gesture of love, an acknowledgement of their familiar dynamic. This small interaction speaks volumes. It's not about strength or weakness, it's about care. It's about knowing when to let someone be strong and when to offer a hand. Not because they can't do it, but because you want to share the load. As evening falls, the cabin becomes their sanctuary once more, a bubble of warmth against the encroaching winter darkness. While tidying up, Maya discovers a forgotten treasure, torn dusty box tucked away in a corner. Inside, she finds old photographs, faded snapshots of Arhan's childhood. A little boy with a gap-toothed grin, a teenager with an awkward haircut, moments frozen in time. She brings the box over to the hearth, where Arhan is resting. Why do you hide these? She asks gently, her curiosity piqued. Arhan's posture stiffens. He looks away, his gaze lost in the dancing flames of the fire. Memories are heavy in winter, he says, his voice barely a whisper. They come back sharper. It's a beautifully poetic and heartbreaking line. In the silence and stillness of winter, the past doesn't just visit, it takes up residence. The ghosts of what was become more vivid, more present. Maya doesn't press jitters and demand answers. Instead, she understands. She simply takes his hand. Her touch is silent promise of support. Then let me carry them with you, she says, too. In that moment, Arhan looks at her, and his walls come down. We see a vulnerability he rarely shows. A profound gratitude for her willingness to share not just his present, but his past, with all its weight and all its shadows. The story then takes us to one of the most visually stunning scenes, a cliff overlook at sunset. They walk through the fresh, untouched snow, hand in hand. Their connection now deeper and more palpable than ever before. The view before them is absolutely breathtaking. A valley stretches out below, blanketed in white, glowing under a sky painted in shades of purple, pink, and orange. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated beauty. As they stand there, surrounded by the quiet majesty of nature, Maya breaks the silence. If we were back in the city right now, what would we be doing? Ahun thinks for a moment, a wry smile playing on his lips. Sitting in traffic, listening to horns. Stressed. The contrast is jarring, pulling us back to the reality most of us know. He turns to face her, his expression serious now. "Here," he says, his voice clear and resonant in the still air. "I hear your voice more clearly. Miss, isn't that what we all crave? A space quiet enough to truly hear the people we love, to listen without the constant static of daily life." Maya's smile is radiant, touched by the simple, powerful truth of his words. Their days continue to unfold with a simple, joyful rhythm. We see them in the kitchen, a scene brimming with life and laughter. Flour dusts Maya's nose as she tries to knead dough. Ahun, ever the playful thief, steals bites of food directly from the pan. "Hey, that was mine," she exclaims, and a playful chase ensues around the small kitchen. It's chaotic, it's messy, and it's absolutely perfect. Outside, the winter rages on, a symbol of the harsh, unforgiving world they've left behind. But inside the cabin, there is warmth, there is life, there is an abundance of love. This story is a beautiful reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures aren't found in exotic places or grand gestures. They're found in the quiet moments, in shared burdens, in playful laughter, and in the simple act of being present with the one you love. It teaches us that removing the noise doesn't create a void. It creates a space for what truly matters to grow. What do you think? Have you ever had an experience like this, where getting away from it all brought you closer to someone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a powerful theme, and I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this journey with me. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story breakdown. Slow. In a world carved from ice and silence, Ahun and Maya's survival depended on the risks they took. Ahun drilled into the frozen lake, the auger biting deep. Maya, ever watchful, gathered dry kindling nearby. "The ice looks thin today," she called out, her voice a small puff of white in the frigid air. "It's always risky," Ahun replied, his focus unbroken. "We'll be quick." It stretched into an eternity of cold. Then, a sound that shattered their fragile piece, a sharp, splintering crack. Ahun froze, every muscle tensed. "Ahun, don't move," Maya whispered, her voice trembling but steady. But it was too late. The world beneath him gave way, and with a sickening lurch, the ice split. He plunged into the black, freezing water. The shock was instant, a paralyzing cold that stole his breath. He thrashed, his arms flailing against the jagged edges of the whole Ahun. Maya's scream ripped through the quiet landscape. Without a second's hesitation, she dropped to her stomach, spreading her weight across the treacherous surface. She crawled, her movements desperate but deliberate, inching her way towards the abyss that had swallowed him. He reached for her, his fingers numb and useless, only to slip back under the churning surface. Maya screamed again, a raw, primal sound of terror and determination. She lunged, her bare hands grabbing the rough collar of his jacket. She pulled with every ounce of strength she possessed. The sharp eyes sliced into her palms, but she didn't stop. She pulled and pulled and pulled, her hands bleeding, her muscles screaming, until finally, with one last monumental effort, she dragged his dead weight onto the solid ice. He gasped violently, his body racked with shudders, his lungs burning as they took in air back in their small cabin. The fire roared, a stark contrast to the deathly chill clinging to Arhan. Maya dragged him close to the hearth, his body shaking uncontrollably. She stripped off his soaked clothes and wrapped him in dry furs, her hands working tirelessly. Ornaments massaging his arms, his chest, his frozen fingers, trying to force life and warmth back into him. Tears streamed down her face, hot against her cold skin. "Don't you dare leave me," she sobbed, her voice a desperate plea. "Not like this. Not in this cold." Slowly, miraculously, his violent shaking began to subside. His breathing, ragged and shallow, steadied. He managed to lift his hand, his fingers weakly squeezing hers. "You saved me," he choked out, his voice a mere whisper. "Be again." Later, as Arhan lay, recovering in their shared bed, Maya curled up beside him, a silent guardian against the lingering cold. "You deserve the world, Maya," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. He pressed her face against his shoulder, shaking her head. "I don't need the world," she whispered back. "I need you." He turned to look at her then, a look so full of love and gratitude it spoke volumes more than words ever could. Weeks turned into months. The iron grip of winter slowly loosened its hold. The first signs of spring appeared like a promise, whispered on the wind. Snow melted, revealing the dark, rich earth beneath. The songs of returning birds filled the morning air. Run dawn. Sunlight streamed into the valley, warming the world awake. A connection to the new life stirring all around them. Arhan joined her, his steps stronger now. In his hands, he held a small, intricately carved wooden box. "What's this?" Aya asked, her curiosity piqued. He opened it. Nestled on a bed of soft moss was a pendant, a perfect, delicate snowflake carved from polished bone. "To remind us," he said softly, his gaze meeting hers. "Even in the coldest winters, love survives." Tears welled in her eyes as she took the pendant. He placed it around her neck, and they held each other in a long, silent hug. The warmth of the sun on their backs, this season blossomed. They stood together on a cliff overlooking the valley. The world below was no longer a canvas of white and gray, but a vibrant tapestry of green, alive and hopeful. The river, once a solid sheet of ice, now flowed freely, its waters sparkling in the setting sun. "Whatever comes next," Maya began, her voice filled with a quiet strength. Arhan took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We face it together." And as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they sealed their promise with a kiss, their silhouettes a testament to a love that had not just endured the winter, but had been forged in its very heart.